Well, welcome, Hawkeye Nation, to fifth hour of Hawkeye coverage this evening. After a long signing day show earlier, we're back with postgame coverage following Iowa, the men's win against UMBC. That's Maryland-Baltimore County, 103-81. And the score is great and all, but what makes this show great is that guy right there on your right.
Wow, that's quite an introduction.
Coach Gary Close. And what makes this show even greater tonight, I'm going to leave the introduction to you on this one, Gary. What do we got here?
Number 4. Number 1 in our hearts. And number 4 for the Hawkeyes. Yes,
you weren't kidding, Jess. You weren't kidding when you said there was like 2 people left in that arena.
Hey, I think it's still a school night. People Christmas shopping. And everybody racing to their cars to get on the show to join Gary Close and I.
Well, Jess, you did a fine job this evening. Good work, as always.
I appreciate that. Fine is subjective. Good. I don't know what that means, fine. I was expecting – that was outstanding, the best I've heard all year. Fine is like Gary used to tell me after practice you were fine today. Fine. Anyway, go on. Sorry.
Well, you look great. How about that? You look fabulous.
You do look good.
So you look better than, well, I can't speak for Gary. You look better than I do. But Jess, you've seen that. We're going to talk about the. I'm sure we'll reminisce, and you'll have your little back and forth with Gary, which all the fans love, I know. But I want to talk about this team macro to start, because you defeat a Maryland-Baltimore County team that was 5-8 coming into the game or whatever they were. This team is a work in progress, Jess. You've covered this team. I don't know how many games you've done so far this year. How would you describe where they're at right now, mid-December?
A team that needs a ton of work defensively, a team that against the power conference teams has not been able to compete very well and play the way that they want to play. Against the lower level teams have been spectacular. I think here at home they're averaging close to 100 points a game, but against Oklahoma, against Purdue, Creighton, throw in the second half of Michigan, they have to get a lot better. They really miss Connor McCaffrey, Phil Rebracha, and that just toughness and strength and power that those guys played with on the post. I don't think it's fair to say it's a rebuilding year, because Peyton's had a ton of experience and Perk's had a ton of experience, and Patrick has been out there for a lot of wins. Cricky, leading scorer in the Valley last year. But so the team's got to find their defense. Coach McCaffrey, told me today and has told me for a month now that he thought this would be one of his better three-point shooting teams. And they've just been okay from beyond the arc. I think they were shooting maybe around 33%. This team almost has to shoot, Gary. They got to shoot close to 40% from three in those big games. They just have to.
Yeah, because they just don't have the consistent inside scorer that they can count on like they've had in the past. Whether it's been a center or forward. And, yeah, I agree. I think and hopefully they will, because they've got some capabilities there. They just haven't shown it yet.
Brock Harding was really good tonight, Jess, and rightfully so. He's our RTI Threads player of the game. Just really saw 14 assists to go along with 10 points and 1 turnover plus 4 steals. Those were all minus turnovers. Those 3 categories were career highs for him. Is he going to be starting by the time we hit conference play, Jess, or is that jumping the gun?
Wow, it was interesting tonight. I mean, he got a ton of minutes, and it seemed like the one guy who was not coming out of the game. Now, it's just, he's a wizard with the basketball, brilliant passer. I think he's a good three-point shooter. He's a winner. But the size issue, especially as a freshman, is going to be a factor, and it's just going to be – I think it's going to be game by game, timeout by timeout with matchups, whether or not he can be in the game and play at that physical level. There's so many big, strong guards in the Big Ten. I don't know. I think it's wait and see on that.
Gary, what'd you think of Brock tonight?
He was great. He was really, really strong. He had his head up and, read the defense as well and made some passes that were Jess Settles like. I mean, they were that impressive. So he's coming, just like the rest of the freshman class. They've got some potential there, and I think a big part of their success is how much better they can get as the year goes on, because they've all shown flashes that they can play. So
he's such a brilliant passer, right? He just loves that part of the game. It seems like, Coach, you can speak to this. It seems like the next 10 days are just critical for the freshmen. Like they've got to take the next step. I mean, they just have to. What did you tell your guys? I mean, what are they going to have? Are they going to have 4 or 5 days off here? Like, what are they supposed to do over the break? What would you tell them to do?
Yeah. Well, I think you want to get away from it just a little bit because it's been a grind. They just got off of finals, but I think what's important is you got to keep your conditioning up a little bit, and if you can get in the gym and shoot a little bit, that's good too. I'm sure they're going to come back probably 3-4 days before they have that last non-conference game, so they got a little bit of time before the Big Ten starts up. But having lost 2 Big Ten games already, they can't afford to lose a bunch more in a row, or they're going to be out of the running right from the get-go. So. But I thought they made some strides today. They looked like a better team tonight.
Jess, I want you to explain yourself. I think I understand. I just want to clarify something. At the end of the broadcast, no, hold on a second. Give me a chance here. At the end of the broadcast, you had your 3 most important games for Iowa left on the schedule, and they were basically 3 top 25 teams that Iowa plays. Basically, the 3 best teams in the conference: Purdue, Illinois, and Wisconsin. I'm assuming you made that decision, you made that call based upon the fact that to make the tournament, they're going to need to knock somebody off. Is that fair?
Yeah, I just piggybacking off of what Coach Close said. So that Wisconsin game is massive for so many reasons, because you just can't afford to go 0-3, 0-4 type of, start falling to 0-5. So that one's just critical. They're a ranked team. Wisconsin's really good. They're looking for a signature win, obviously. So that one is massive. For selfishly speaking, if I attend that game, I get to stay free of the close house, and I get those patented pancakes in the morning for breakfast. So that's one of the reasons I put it up there. Now, then you jump into Purdue, and Purdue is every team in the Big Ten this year is going to be like, hey, we got to beat Purdue for our resume. They're number 1 team in the country. It's going to be game of the year. And so those 2 games are massive to me. I was sincere in that. Those really jumped off the schedule at me.
Gary, the only reason I asked him the question is, and I totally understand where he comes from, and I do believe that they need to win probably 2 of those games, because I don't even know how many premier resume building wins are there left on the schedule. If you're not talking about any of those 3 games, they've already lost to Purdue on the road. They've got a quote-unquote kind of mediocre loss at home to Michigan. They didn't really get much non-conference minus that, so-so win against Seton Hall. I mean, how many real quality resume-building wins are there left?
Yeah. Well, the Michigan loss was bad. I mean, they're I don't think they're going to be in the top half of the league. And I might be wrong. They might improve, but that's a home game. So that's one that really that could come back to haunt them. So because of that, they've got to get a win somewhere where they're not supposed to, and that's what Jess mentioned. There are not going to be many teams win in Madison this year, so that obviously would be a big one, and it might be a good time to get them. Just coming off a break, and maybe that's a good time to get them. They won't be as sharp maybe as they would be if they caught them after a few games in a row. So We'll see. That won't be easy.
I have a couple quick questions. This is for either coach or for you, Jess. First half. This is game specific. First half, there was a weird call, and I could see Fran was upset about it, where the ball was clearly tipped past half court. UMBC player, does this dive where you mentioned, he probably could have broke his ribs diving the way he did at the ball. He recovers the ball, but never seemed to have clear possession. The play is blown dead because they call over and back, but then they confer and determine that the ball was tipped. They give the ball to UMBC. I'm assuming that's why Fran was upset, because there was no clear recovery by UMBC. Did that seem like – did you get an explanation on that call?
I did not. It was a cowardly call by me. I didn't know what the heck was going on. I couldn't figure it out. I'm looking at the screen. There's chaos, and then sometimes you're just like, you know what? I'm just going to keep my mouth shut and let it move on. But I didn't know what was going on. So, no, I don't know, Gary. What did you see? I still don't know what happened.
I thought that's what he kind of explained it, that they did go over and back, and then they found out that it got tipped. Maybe another official came over and said it got tipped. And I think it was the right call.
Yeah, it was.
Again.
They didn't recover the ball. Like they gave the
Well,
ball.
Did they blow the whistle?
They blew the whistle, but there was no recovery when they blew the whistle. So how you'd think maybe jump ball in that situation by rule that you'd go jump ball and go possession arrow, but I don't know. It was kind of an odd call that I haven't seen. So
it had a huge effect on the game, no question.
What do you expect me to do here, Gary? Okay, let's get to more consequential things here. So I got a bone to pick with Jess. He started talking with his fellow comrade on the broadcast about how you better get up and get in line because you might have to wait a while for a Carver cone tonight. There's no way on earth that there was a line for ice cream this evening. No way on earth, Jess.
Look, I've stood up there for 40 minutes before and didn't move more than 3 spots. Well, look, we've got to get some people stepping up around here with the cone service. I'm supposed to get a free one every time I do a game. Do you think anybody's brought me one this year? No. I haven't tasted one for 10 years.
Nobody wants to walk down those steps.
Here's my here's my lovely wife. There's your favorite. There's Uncle Gary Close.
She's pancakes or something.
Yeah, I told him the free pancakes, and he's like wavering in it.
Oh no, they were amazing. Like melt in your mouth pancakes. There's a secret recipe going on up in Madison.
Yeah.
All right.
Merry Christmas. See
We'll
you later. I'll see you later.
Okay.
Wow.
So the close pancakes, those you don't make those, right, Gary?
I absolutely do.
You make them.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Been doing it for years.
So what's better, the close flapjacks or the Carver cones?
Oh, the flapjacks. I mean the cones. Look, I don't like eating food when I'm angry, so I got to go with the pancakes. By the time you get up there, you're just like, here, you take it. Give it to someone else.
You'd rather drive 3 hours to Gary's place to get the flapjack.
Right.
Are you going to get the Wisconsin game?
No, good glory, no.
I don't know what broadcast it's on.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I get out of town if you are.
That's unbelievable.
You heading over for the game, Gary?
No, I won't be there. No.
He'll be where? He bought a place in South Carolina, Miami. I don't know. Look, once he went to the Final Four twice, back to back. It's hard to get him to return calls. Hard to get him to hang. It's some people just change with that type of success.
Success can do that to you.
Yeah,
goes right to the head. Okay, quick thing. We got to cut. We're going to be brief with our calls this evening. We do have a couple of people that I'm sure want to talk to Jess and Gary, not me. We've got a caller on our phone line. Before we do that, I want to give a shout out to RTI Threads. They've got Cooper DeJean apparel. He might be Athlete of the Year for Iowa Athletics. CD3lacesup.com, and also apparel lines and merch lines for Aaron Graves, Carson Shire, Aiden Hall, Zach Letmer, a lot of young, talented football prospects that will probably emerge here coming up because some older guys are moving on out. RTIthreads.com, support the NIL cause. Let's go to our caller on hold. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame with Coach. Who's on the line?
Yeah, this is Brian Shannon.
Hey, Brian.
Iowa
Hey, Brian.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Just to say, enjoyed the call tonight by Jess. Brought a little class to the Big Ten Network. With Gary close to the line, we used to compete against him and the other assistant coaches, Frank DeLeo, and some classic assistant basketball coach / manager basketball games. I always enjoyed Coach Close because he used to talk a lot of trash. Maybe about so. Just wanted to say a shout out to them, and I was there in 94, 95, and it was a great time. But great game tonight. Just wanted to go ahead and say hello.
Hold on, Brian, real quick. Can you? Who is this again, Gary? Do you know who this is on the line?
I didn't catch his last name.
Brian Shannon. I was there 94, 95. Just remember trying to get me to date one of his classmates in his English class. I don't know if you remember that, Jess. Yes, please. But anyway, it was fun times, and we used to go ahead and play the pickup games between manager and players.
Oh, they were notorious.
I were about the same height, and so I used to just try to pass the ball, but even when I passed the ball, he'd be chirping in my ear, talking trash, and we'd always put on fun.
It's not trash when you back it up, Ryan.
That is true. That's true. I remember you not shooting a lot because I was defending you, but you passed the ball a lot to DeLeo, and he had a jump shot that was at the very end.
Yeah, Frank was deadly. I adjusted my game depending on who I was playing with, and I had to get that rock to him.
I agree. I believe didn't he hold an all-time shooting record at the school he went to? Was it like Dartmouth or something? I believe, or
he actually played for Coach Davis at Lafayette, and he was a very good player.
All right.
Yep.
I just remember he never missed. And then other favorite memory of Jess was Jess would walk into Burge Hall, and then he'd sit by me, and so I was instantly cool because 6 foot guy and Iowa legend. And then he would be like, "Hey, do you want to be my manager?" So I was like, "Okay." So we would go ahead, and Jess would shoot about 300 shots one-handed before practice every game. And I'm sitting here like, "Oh yeah, this is fine." Like I'm actually a sucker enough to rebound for him, but I enjoyed every minute of it. But I tell my teams that I coach, my high school coach, that what it takes to be good, and I bring up Jess all the time in that sense of before practice and everything.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So
next time we get down, we'll get together and play again.
Yeah, I'm a little slower. I don't know about you, but I'm a little slower. So
I'm definitely a little slower.
Gary hasn't missed a step.
So Gary's from Philadelphia, so he thinks that's how you play. You talk trash, and these guys used to play before practice. I remember used to almost get to go into blows with Steve Rowe or SID, and it was unbelievable to watch those two go at it. And then I remember, I think the first time Brock Harding just came back out. He's working on his game, which is impressive to see. But I think the first practice I ever had with Gary, I remember being in that same spot down there on the free throw line, and coach would started me in close, and then you kind of move farther out. I think I got about 6 feet out, and he goes, forget that, come back in here. so we were just, like thousands of 2-footers, right? Just thousands until you could fix this mess, right?
That's what it takes.
I mean, the thing I tell the kids, I remember Jess being a 6'5", 6'6", but he would do one-handed, and they would shoot a 3-footer, and it would land, and he would hold his, hand up, like the hand in the cookie jar, like you teach the young kids, until the ball landed. And I'm like, all right, you can go ahead and put your hand down. It's really not that necessary. But obviously, he was working on his form. But it was impressive, and I love being a manager for you guys. So keep up the great work.
Well, thanks
for the call, Brian.
Very much appreciated. Yeah, I didn't know what was going on there. He knew a lot more information about you than
he did. We had so many great managers at Iowa, and still do. They are indispensable. I mean, they just work their tails off, and I know it's a great experience for them. But my goodness, it's you got to have them. And they do a great job.
We got the trash people behind Jess. So. Okay, let's before we go to our next caller, let's give our sponsor a plug. We'll let the trash people get through. Iowa Smokehouse and their beef sticks, their beef jerky, their everything. I mean, we're talking such a wide variety of snacking. Steak bites, ketchups, barbecue sauces, anything you need for game day, they've got it. Tasting is believing. Visit iowasmokehouse.com and use the code Hawkeyes for 15% off your order. You'll get free shipping on $50 orders. Close has enjoyed some Iowa Smokehouse. Use the code Hawkeyes for 15% off at iowasmokehouse.com. And Gary, you've told me you're not really a cured meat guy, but
Well, every once in a while, but not way at the top of my list. But I think Sam will put a few of those in a stocking. It'd be good stocking stuff.
you got to watch that figure. The basketball contest with old student or with
No doubt.
So
No doubt.
all right, let's go back to our Iowa Smokehouse. We appreciate Ryan calling into our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. Let's go back to our Iowa Smokehouse line. We'll go to Tony. Tony,
you're on.
Tony's
Oh, my goodness.
Hawkeye Prince. Attaboy,
I was down at the doubleheader, and Randy Engel delivered that to my hotel room.
Well, look at Randy. Doorside
First class service. Had to say, since he's one of your sponsors, and I always promote all of them, I had to let you know he did a great job. Hey, Jess, who did you pay to give all those accolades listed at Winfield Mount Union? I know half those had to be made up.
Hey, look. I mean, I left half of them off. There were a lot more. I mean, Scott Dockerman went down there to write a story about Cam Buffington yesterday. Cam Buffington's a middle linebacker from Winfield Mount Union who just signed with the Hawkeye football team. He's going to be awesome. You're going to love him. But he must have been wandering around the lobby and started reading all the plaques and stuff from former players and put that on Twitter. And, yeah, I've been taking heat for it ever since. But, look, when you have the goods, you have to share it with the world, man.
Who are you
go ahead, Tony.
Who are you covering this year conference-wise, Jess? Last year you were doing like a lot of Mountain Western stuff, right?
Yeah, no, I'm just a freelancer, so you just go where the work is. I've got Mountain West this year. I've got Big Ten. I think I'll have Big 12 with ESPN. So I just whatever they'll give me, you take it and go. It's really an interesting business. I think 5% of the guys and gals in this business are making a living at it, and then the rest of us just try and make it work and hope it works out and hope you get called. It's as simple as that. But I have enjoyed going out and covering the Mountain West. A lot of good coaches. I'm going to the pit this year for the first time in New Mexico, which I've never been, which I know, Gary, you've probably been there a few times. I've
Just
never
once.
been just once. Okay.
Yeah.
Richard Pitino's there now. I'm going I've got a game at Nevada. Colorado State is so beautiful, right? You just get off that plane. It's just the beauty of Fort Collins. I'll be going out to New Jersey as well. And it's just all over. So it's good.
They might be the best Western United States conference over the Pac-12, the Mountain West.
Yeah. Is the Pac-12 even playing this year, or are they gone already?
Not yet. I wanted to touch. I don't think I heard you guys touch it on it. Fran said twice in that post-game interview with you he was not happy with the defense at all.
Yeah.
And that's the first time I've ever heard him be that adamant.
Well, hold on a second. He has criticized the defense. I don't know that I've ever heard him say horrendous defense.
Yeah.
He's even said everyone was open. Which, I mean, that doesn't mean anything unless it's resolved. But I do think there's probably a faction of the fan base like you, Tony, that appreciates hearing that out of Fran, even against a mediocre opponent. Because it wasn't good. Jess?
Yeah, he caught me off guard a little bit right there, right? Those are always interesting situations. I kind of had in my head which way I wanted to take it. I was, I talk a little bit about Brock Harding. I was going to talk about Christmas. What's he getting for Margaret? All those type of things, kind of have fun with it. And you're right. He just jumped right in there that, our defense is not good, and he wasn't happy about it. He was irritated about it, and so you just roll with that. But a lot of work. He knows the gauntlet that's coming. He knows how tough it is. He knows right now they have not been competitive in those big games, and he's just trying to find a way to guard with a lot of losses from last year. But yeah, that did surprise me a little bit that he went firm with that. What did you think of that, Coach? Did you see it?
I did not, which it kind of surprised me because I thought about halfway through the first half, those last 10 minutes or so, they played really good defense. And I thought it was some of the best defense they played all year. Now maybe Baltimore County had something to do with that.
Gary, let's quantify what he said here real quick, and I'm going to let you go.
Okay.
But quantify. He said the first 10 minutes and the last 10 minutes were horrendous defensively.
Yeah. He did mention that. He did mention. Yeah, okay. He mentioned, like you said, that middle portion they locked in and played defense, but the beginning and the end was not great. Yeah,
well, the game was in hand. It's an excuse, but that's it'll give him something to get their attention. That's probably what he wants.
Just one quick comment, and then I'll close. I went down to the doubleheader. I did get to meet Fran and Lisa and Dolph and all of them at a Swarm event. It's kind of got to be frustrating for Fran because they're there. Everyone's lining up to meet Lisa, and no one wants to talk to Fran.
Seriously?
And it just, yeah. We were there, and I went and had probably about 30-second to a minute conversation with him, shook his hand, got his picture. He signed the bottle of vodka for me that we got there, and there's just a super long line for Lisa. And he seems like one of the most personable, nice guys I've ever met. And, of course, you have to be at those types of events. I get it.
Nothing against Lisa Bluter, but
nothing.
A lot of that is because of one generation of players.
Yeah.
So nothing against Lisa, but now, Jess, you said it before we jumped on. How many people do you estimate were in that arena tonight?
Man, buddy, I'm gonna say between 2,500 and 4,000 would be my guess.
Now, Tony, I think it was you that kind of defended this on Twitter. I saw earlier.
Oh no, I didn't defend it. I was just stating a fact that it was a bye game, and
you really think that's
the
explanation? That it's a bye game and because it's a midweek game? Do we really think that's the explanation? That's why there was 2,000 people.
Well, I think there's a lot. I mean, we could go on for 10 to 15 minutes as to why I think the attendance is bad, but
well, that doesn't help. There's no question. What you said, it doesn't help, but I don't know. I mean, Gary, from your experience, I mean, there's not been many examples of women's basketball programs that have exploded like the Iowa women, but is it hard to have two basketball programs at the same university kind of sharing the stardom and attention and getting arenas full on a night in, night out basis? Is the stardom kind of hard to share?
I'm not sure about that. I mean, maybe at times, but I think it's, I think the Iowa women what are they, second in the country? I mean, that's a big deal. They were in the national championship game last year, and they got, maybe the greatest women's college basketball player ever. Certainly one of the top 3 or 4. So that's huge. And the men don't have that right now. So hopefully as the season goes on, and I like their freshmen. I think their freshmen are going to be pretty good, maybe better than that. And if they can do that, then they can build on that and go from there.
Well, Tony,
I think UConn supported both men's and women's basketball. It came up. But Merry Christmas to you guys. Have a good one. I'll let you go.
Thanks. Tony. Appreciate it.
See you, Tony.
A little bit different given the football situation. I mean, I know he's not talking about recently, but even when Big East football was a thing, UConn I don't think was.
It's not easy, that's for sure. Yeah. No.
And again, I don't know, totally different part of the country. There's clearly been a decline. We all know that. I mean, it's not. I don't think it's anything necessarily personal against Fran, but there's clearly been a decline for whatever. Let's see here. Can I ask you, Jess, about Price Stanford? I don't mean to be Debbie Downer here, but he made a 3 tonight. It was good to see him kind of get off the schneid, if you will, but he's been struggling, and I actually thought heading into the year that he was maybe the one freshman that gave them the best chance at immediate production, given what he gives you from behind the arc, and I was dead wrong on that. You've got at least two of the other freshmen, maybe three if you count Logi, who didn't play tonight, ahead of him right now. And I'm sure Price will start knocking down shots, but what do you make of the slump he's dealing with right now?
You know, it's interesting. I think they scrimmaged Wichita State in those those secret practices or whatever, and the coaches will tell you that there were a lot of those segments where he was the best player on the floor. I mean, every time he was open, he's knocking in a three. They had high hopes for him coming into this season. The first half of the season, I think they thought he was going to play a much bigger role, like what you're talking about. Defensively, he's not there, which makes it tough. And most freshmen aren't there defensively coming in. And then when you compound that with not hitting open shots, and he's missed as many open ones as anybody this year. It's hard to be a freshman at this level. It's hard to adjust academically, socially, being away from home, used to getting all the shots, being the star of your team and having to come in and play a role. So I like his game. I like his length. He seems like one of those Fran McCaffrey type of players who's going to be here 4 or 5 years, right? So you can get older with him. But it just at this point, he's probably a little more behind schedule than what he expected, and you just start losing your confidence a little bit. He's a much better shooter than what he's shown, but you do have to do it when the lights come on.
Gary, would you echo the same thing?
No, I think that's in a nutshell. It's a freshman trying to find his way in a tough situation. So, when the lights come on, you're out there. It's just a totally different deal. And maybe he has one game where he lights somebody up, and then we got to get him going. But you start, hoping that ball's going in rather than knowing it is, and that's all the difference in the world.
Right.
Is it fair to say the stat line at the top here tonight, guys, is what you envision for a team that is successful, that gives itself a chance in the Big Ten heading into January, February, and even into March, where you get, 14 out of Patrick on just 11 attempts. You get 17 out of Ben with 12 boards. Tony Perkins gives you 23 and perfect from the free throw line. Peyton gives you 18. I mean, I know you're not going to score over 100 every night in the Big Ten, but ideally, those are the guys, especially Peyton, Tony, and Ben Crickey. Those are the three guys that your crew, the BTN crew, put up, Jess, at the end. Those are the guys that have to be consistent, and I question whether or not they can achieve the level of consistency they need to be a factor, but isn't that what we need to see moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's going to have to step up. They're going to have to get a ton of balance. Guys are going to have to play better than they have been, but that's exactly the stat line they're looking for. Obviously, in a game like this, you're getting so many easy baskets in the paint. It's just not realistic for what's going to be up in Madison in a few weeks. The three-point shooting sort of has me baffled. They're 6 for 23 tonight. They've been shooting low 30%, and if they've got to get that up 10 to 12 points in Big Ten play, they've got to be at 40% with this type of team. I'm surprised they're not shooting it better, Coach. I don't know. I watched the Iowa State game, watched the Creighton. There are a lot of open threes. I mean, they're just not making them. And as a coach, I don't know what else you can do. You're playing 12 guys.
I thought a couple things. I thought first off, I thought he shortened his bench tonight. I don't think he played as many guys, and I thought he was maybe playing too many. And I get it because he's trying to find something that can spark the team, and nobody has probably stood out to where, hey, I got to play him. But I thought tonight they moved the ball better than they've done. I thought in a lot of games previously they did a lot of dribbling and kind of bogged everything down. And I thought they moved it, made the extra pass. And so therefore I thought they got better looks. So I think they're going in the right direction, but you're right. They're going to have to shoot better from three. Because if they don't, then people are like at Wisconsin, they'll just pack the thing in. They'll take away all their driving lanes, and then it's going to be hard to score.
James in the chat says Logi wasn't dressed. Do we know why? I did see somebody say that there was a tweet about a lower body injury, but I didn't see anything official from the university. Jess, you didn't get anything on the sidelines about his situation. So
that's embarrassing. You don't even know what happened to the kid?
Hey, look, I have an entourage for that. I can't be doing all the research myself. Look.
They give you an entourage for this game?
Oh yeah. Look, my contract states I want to stay in the penthouse suite. I want a black limousine to take me right to the door. I want to make sure that I have a steak, medium cooked, in the back room before I come out. And I need about 3 statisticians so that can hand me the stats and make me look good on the air.
Well, get one more runner to find out who's playing.
Look, I'll talk to my people about it next time.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, then you woke up, right, Jess?
Yeah, right.
Couple things here in the chat. So Circle Herc says, is it true that men's basketball attendance is down just so that Settles can get to the Carver Cones? Probably some truth to that. So thank you, Circle Herc. Matt Jackson, how about this? Seton Hall beat UConn tonight? Is this true?
Easily.
Wow.
Are we sure we're talking about men's hoops tonight, Gary?
15. They beat him at 15.
So that's, I don't know what UConn was, top 5 heading into that game?
Yeah, top 5.
That's strange.
Yeah. Well, but that's maybe Seton Hall becomes a good win by season's end for Iowa. I know it's just one game and you can't evaluate it based on one game, but boy, that'd be huge. I don't mean to be, they got a lot of work to do, Jess. I'm not disputing that, but if you're talking about rooting for certain non-conference foes, Seton Hall's got to be at the top of the list right now, right?
Yeah, it's right. This whole net quad 1, quad 2 thing, which is, to me, it's just exhausting. And you can't, I don't know, Coach. I think when back in the day, right, if you went 500 in the Big Ten, you were automatically in the Big Dance. As I believe that our sophomore team, when we got blown out in Indiana on the road during senior day, I think that was the first time in Big Ten history a team went 500 in the league and did not make the NCAA tournament, right? So we didn't even think about these non-conference games, the tournaments in Hawaii, the Maui. We didn't even go into those thinking, well, this is a net opportunity, and let's not bring in the bench guys so we can win by 30 instead of 20. And it's a full-time job for these staffs to even make the schedule so that they can pick a team that they can beat by 30, hoping that team doesn't have a transfer come in and then upset the apple. But so then you don't play Drake and then you don't play Northern Iowa because you don't benefit anything from beating them, but your whole season could go down the drain if you lose to them. It just totally takes the purity of competition out of it right now. So yeah, I guess Seton Hall, we're cheering for them now. I can't even imagine thinking that way, but I think you're probably right. Go Seton Hall. That'll help us.
Go Pirates.
Angry Jess.
I just can't stand it. Like even Izzo the other night, I believe I'm paraphrasing him. I think he said after the game, I was going to play Steven, my son, against Oakland, but we were up 25, and if it gets to 19 or whatever, then our net ranking's going to fall. But if we win by, that's how these guys are talking now. At the end of the game, that actually matters. I think Iowa State has no wins against any ranked teams, if I'm not mistaken. I think they're like 6th in the net because they're playing. I didn't even know some of these teams, and they're beating them by 40. And so I don't know, Coach. I can't stand it. I wish there was I can't stand it.
Yeah.
I just can't stand it. The spirit of competition. I don't,
Yeah. I hear where you're coming from. Back in the day, we didn't get nearly as many teams in as they get now. We got some good teams that did not get in that now would get in. Big Ten gets 9-10 teams in. I don't know if that'll be the case this year, but that's the same thing with college football bowl games. My God, some of those bowl games, Lord, Minnesota went in there 5-7. That's amazing.
Now, hold on a second. In their defense, because I'm going to be the bowl defender for a second.
Sure.
People who complain about bowl games, and I'm not saying you're complaining, but I have some people that complain about the bowl games. Why do we have these games? It's like it's not hurting anybody. It's not like this is part of a playoff.
No.
This is just bowl games. It's just an extra game for these guys.
No, but it's you still don't have to totally like it. Like it drives me crazy. These teams, all these guys leave and don't play. And so really the ball games are nothing except for the Final Four. The rest of the teams, everybody's leaving. And so the bowls have really taken a hit. It's not even – I don't even have any interest in it other than the Final Four. I really don't have much interest at all. I'll watch Iowa play because I'm interested in them, and I'll watch Wisconsin play because I'm interested in them. But other than that, I mean, I watch another bowl game other than the Final Four.
There you
But,
go. Okay, I think Jess's wife is probably going to be starting giving
hey,
him.
is Paul Chris going to be the offensive coordinator?
Potentially. Why are you asking the question, Gary?
Well, that's what I heard.
Okay, that's possible. It's. Are those the rumblings up in Middleton?
Yeah, that's been a rumbling.
Yeah,
What a great coach. Great coach.
He's 100% on the short list, and I
We'd
have a
be
lot.
lucky to have him.
Yeah, Kirk's got a lot of respect for Paul as well. Let's head through our last couple of callers here.
Okay.
Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame with Coach Gary. Close our Iowa Smokehouse line. Who's on the line?
Hello?
Hello, you're on the air.
Hey, Corey, this is Randy. I was watching you guys out here in Texas and had a couple observations. It's not so much just basketball, but you want to get back to the purest of basketball. I think the best Iowa Hawkeye season I ever saw was when we went to the Final Four with Ronnie Lester, and I don't know how we beat towards kind of the spectrum that year. That was just an incredible game. But getting back to all this other, with this NIL money and all this stuff coming into all the sports, and I realized the schools aren't paying these players coming from money that we've raised. But the example that I had used the other night was Texas A&M. They're paying $76 million, Jimbo Fisher, not the coach. Well, if there's that kind of oil money down here, they decide they want to buy it, and there's no salary cap, what's the fees? Whoever raises the most amount of money is going to get the best player. They're just saying, hey, we're going to pay each player $1 million a year. There's no regulation. How is that? I don't see how this thing has a positive end unless there's some regulation to it. But I just want to kind of what your thoughts were, just from the basketball side, because it's going to be highly competitive to get these players. And some schools are going to have richer, deeper pockets for, the boosters and stuff. How is that? How are you going to get? I don't see this as a real positive.
Well, it's
right now, regulated some cappers.
Well, Randy, it has not been a positive for Fran McCaffrey and the Iowa men whatsoever. Jess, you haven't really provided your thoughts on NIL, and you don't really talk about it a whole lot on the air. Can you give? I mean, I know you came from a different generation, so you can probably understand some of Randy's frustration with the situation as it currently stands.
I told Gary Close, if I don't have a John Deere tractor in my lot by 5 o'clock, I'm not coming to Iowa. And by golly, that thing showed up. I don't know where it came from, but we'll just put it under NIL 1990 style. I don't know, when you take NIL, extra COVID years, and free transfer rules, and you throw those into a 3-month period or whatever, and just all of them together, it just created the wild, wild west, and it became pay for play, and everybody's just trying to manage that, and it will continue to evolve. I think what's coming is shared revenue with the television packages, and thus contracts as far as, if you come here, we'll pay you this, but you're going to have to commit to 2 or 3 years to this school and not be able to transfer or whatever, you won't get paid. It's a real challenge for these guys. It's an advantage for a lot of different schools, and some schools are going to be left behind. It looks like the mid-majors are going to be completely left behind. They're almost turning into a junior college level, to where, these guys are going to get these players, and all these bigger schools are going to pluck all the mid-major kids from them just automatically. It's just, that's really changing. So I don't know exactly what the answer is. I know it's kind of funny because probably the one player who's benefited more than anybody else in this new era is Caitlin Clark. She came in at just the right time, to really capitalize on this and stick around and make a lot of money. But I don't know, Coach. That's where it's coming. I think it's coming to TV revenue being shared and super conferences, and it's it's interesting to see it. It's tough to swallow too.
Yep. No, I think you said it perfectly. Times are changing fast. It's going to be interesting to see how it all goes. I started my coaching in the Pac-12, and there is no Pac-12 anymore. I mean, there was UCLA and USC and Arizona and Ralph Miller, who coached at Iowa, was at Oregon State. It was a great basketball conference, and now next year it'll be gone, and that's hard to believe. Same thing with football. I remember being a kid. The late Saturday football game was out on the West Coast. It was a Pac-10 game, and that's gone. So it looks like the big conferences are buying everything up, and that could change even more. It's crazy. It really is. It's a tough time to coach.
Randy, appreciate the phone call. I do got to let you slide, but I do appreciate the call, sir.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you, Randy.
Yeah, Randy's not happy with the state of both college football and college basketball. I understand it. He's called in before and voiced that. And, for a guy who grew up during, or I don't know, I shouldn't say grew up, but who, he's talking about the Ronnie Lester era. That was a long time ago in the grand scheme of things. Not to make either of you feel old. I got a good friend, Jess. I texted a good friend of mine this evening, and I said, hey, if you want to meet Jess, jump on the show. And she said, well, I met him when I was 10, so I don't want to make him feel
That's great.
He's in her mid-30s now. But anyways, times have changed, like you said, Gary. I mean, just unbelievable. Like you said, the Pac-12
quickly. Yeah.
How can you imagine being a tennis player, softball player, diver from Rutgers, and what are they going to do here? They got to swim at UCLA and USC. So do they go out there? They're going to play 3 or 4 games. They're going to stay out there for 10 days. I mean, how does USC go to Maryland and play? And then I don't know, the whole model is broken, and it'll eventually shake out, but it's really tough right now for the mission of these universities and coaching, and a lot of our all-time great coaches have just said, I'm out.
Yeah.
Just out.
Well, that had a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
Gary, your old guy, Chip Kelly, right? You were a Chip Kelly fan at one point.
I couldn't stand him.
Okay. Well, he's went on the record this week talking about exactly what Jess just said. The fact that the football needs to be basically separate from everything else. The NCAA needs to kind of go away and just allow it to do its own thing. And I don't know that we're close to that happening. And the problem with the NCAA, and I don't want to get into a rabbit hole here, but we all know the NCAA kind of got their tails handed to them by the Supreme Court. That's not changing. So because the NCAA dug their heels in as long as they did, now even if you start paying people, you're not getting the toothpaste back in, if you will. So it's such a weird situation. I would have never guessed, and I agree with both of you. And I'm a lot younger, I know, than either one of you. But I remember the days like I don't know if you saw this other day, Jess. I know you're on Twitter, but the old Big Ten Network video commercial with all the old football coaches. And it was like Kirk Ferentz and Joe Paterno, and they were all doing this recruiting spot. And it was the last scene of the recruiting video was Joe Pa saying, "Go to Penn State." And it brought me back to like 2007 or 8 or whatever it was. And it was like, man, that's only 15 years, but so much has changed. And I do really miss that era of college football. And I would say the same thing. I don't miss the Licklider era of college basketball. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying in general, like the sport as a whole, I still love it, as both of you do, because you're still wanting to be involved with both these with the sport, but it has changed. So anyways, let's get to our next Iowa Smokehouse caller. Corey's on hold. Corey, welcome.
Hey, can you hear me all right?
We got you, sir.
Hey, Corey.
Good. My mic was having issues. I got one statement, 2 questions.
Okay.
First statement. How good is that Brock Harding kid, man? His upside, his potential, I love it. I think he's going to be a great player to come. That kid's special, I think. 2 questions. 2 questions for Coach and Jess. It's Corey's favorite question. What's the upside? Tell me, I'm an optimistic guy, and I want to know what the upside is to this team. What do you guys think the upside is?
That's a real good question. It's going to be fun to watch. I'd say the upside would be that these freshmen continue to really emerge. They stay healthy. I just said they shoot the ball a little bit better. I think the league is beyond Purdue and maybe Wisconsin, Illinois. I'm not totally convinced. It is really wide open. There's no Dom. I've seen some really bad play in Big Ten. Watching some of these teams play, I shake my head. So I don't think Iowa is that far behind some of these teams, and some of them are going to go. I mean,
So the potential is there to climb the ladder, is what you're saying.
yeah. I mean, they've got a ways to go yet. I don't think there's any question. And like Jess said, they haven't proven they can beat the really good teams.
Mm-hmm.
And until they do that, they've got no chance. But I don't think the league is so overpowering that they're that far behind. Literally almost all the teams, with maybe a couple of exceptions.
Right. I guess, Jess, what do you think?
I totally agree. There are a ton of wins out there. I just covered the Penn State-Ohio State game last week. You know, Penn State rebuilding, Maryland struggling, Nebraska, great win at Kansas State, but they've been really inconsistent at the beginning here. Minnesota struggling mightily, right? Michigan State finally found their way. Obviously, the Michigan game was tied at halftime. So there are a ton of winnable games outside of Purdue. Illinois, not unbeatable. Wisconsin, very good. That's going to be tough. But, you know, individually, Cricky's got to become a better rebounder. He's got to get on the glass in these big games. I think he's averaging like 4.5 rebounds in 30 minutes. He's got to get close to 10 rebounds. Freeman, as bouncy as he is, he's got to get tougher on the glass. I think I said on the air tonight, Peyton Sanford leads the team in rebounding. I mean, that's great for Peyton, but that's not great for the team. Like, he can't lead the team in rebounding. Those other guys have to clean up. I mean, Coach Close would have mocked me for every day if Chris Kingsbury was leading the team in rebounding back in the day. That would have been unbearable.
Jess, you're absolutely right about Ben Cricky. He was not a good rebounder at Valpo, though. So they knew that when they brought him in. And
I know, right.
Can we?
Patrick's got to rebound better. You know, we just got to get on the glass better.
2 rebounds tonight for Patrick.
I say it just seems to me like they're 1 or 2 things away on this team from like opening it up and could be, you know, challenging for one of the top spots in the Big Ten. But they're like two things away from getting there, and I think it's defense, which, you know, it's never pretty, and I think it's just the shots are not falling. I feel like some of those shots start falling, and this team can really, really shoot lights out.
Corey, not to rip you, because my name's Corey as well, but that's like saying, you know, I was 2 things away from being LeBron.
I know. Yeah.
Enough, and I wasn't skilled enough. Like, defense is
that's just the optimism in me. It gets into me a little bit, but yeah, I know.
I understand.
I know what I'm saying, but
Corey, I appreciate the phone call, sir. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah,
thanks, Corey.
Thank you. Optimistic. I mean, one of the top spots in the league, as you said, Gary. How many top tier teams are there in this league? So I mean,
I watched some games like Indiana was down 20 at home to Morehead State. Maryland barely beat some team that I don't even remember what it wasn't. It wasn't a very good team. They didn't have a very good record. So there's just not right now. Now that could change, but there's not a lot of really. Well, we only got 3 teams ranked in the top 25, and 2 of them are in Wisconsin's at 24. So we had 2 teams in the top 23. So, you know, there's a lot of teams that think, oh man, if we can get better, we stay healthy, you guys can improve, we can move right up the ladder, because there's not there's just not a lot of powerhouse teams like the league used to have. Now that could change, but right now it doesn't look like it right now.
Is that a fair estimate, Jess?
Yeah, no question. I mean, we've had several teams that have been on the ropes early in the year against teams that they shouldn't be on the ropes against. I mean, obviously the parity is right there in college basketball these days, but there are some great opportunities ahead. If this team starts hitting 10, 11, 12 threes a game instead of 6, 7, 8, everything could change. And yeah, I agree with Coach. I mean, there are a lot of opportunities out there in front of them.
When in the Big Ten have you ever had a time when Michigan, Michigan State, Indiana, and Ohio State, all of them, weren't ranked in the top 25?
Never.
I mean,
Never.
I mean,
A
that's
little bit of a caveat to what we talked about those top 3 teams. Michigan State did cream Baylor the other night, so
they did, and that's there's a team that could emerge, but I still got to see them shoot consistently well. I mean, they have shot horribly up. I mean, they made 18 threes in that game, and if you make 18 threes, you're going to beat the Lakers. I mean, and then I really have doubts about their there's no, which is good news for Iowa. There's very few big guys that are any good in the league. I mean, probably the best big guy in the league is the kid from Wisconsin.
Wow.
He might be the best player.
Zach Edey.
And besides Zach Edey, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I missed him. Yeah, but beyond that,
yeah,
I can't even name the Michigan inside guys or the Michigan State inside guys. I'm sure they're, like I said, they may evolve, but I just don't see any dominating teams other than Purdue, and I think Wisconsin maybe. Now they got blasted by Arizona, but Illinois got some talent, but. Boy, beyond that, it's wide open. So that's 3 teams. So 4, 5, 6, 7 is a battle.
Comment was made earlier by one of you that the freshmen, when will that click, and these freshmen take the next step? I think that's putting a lot of pressure on a bunch of freshmen, because I don't think, again, you don't have the consistency from guys yet that you'd like to have, and I mean that clock has been ticking for a while on guys like Tony Perkins. And maybe he'll turn into that once we hit January, every night type of performance like we saw this evening. But with that,
well, those freshmen can come along, then it takes the heat off of some of those older guys, and it gets easier if more people are contributing, and there's not as much pressure on 1 or 2 guys. So, like tonight, they had a really good balance tonight. If they can do that and shoot a little bit better, who knows?
Is it fair to say that what you just talked about, Gary, the lack of a consistent big man throughout the league, could play to the advantage of Iowa in that their best freshman is a big man, and if he's going to take the next step, maybe he can get a little ahead of schedule.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree totally.
He's won 4 Big Ten Player of the Week awards thus far.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
he's got to get stronger and slower and more fundamentally. He doesn't convert inside as much as he's going to have to do, but he's got talent. I mean, he's got to work at getting a bigger base and getting stronger and finishing through contact and throwing fouls, things like that. It really would help the team a lot.
Romansky, thank you for the super chat in honor of Jess Settle's color commentary, donating to from the Hawkeye of the Storm. So he's thanking you by donating to me, Jess.
Wow.
We need to get you on the show more often. You're the draw.
If you want ratings, you got my number.
And by the way, Corey, you sent me up some of the stuff, the meats last year, and they really are good. I mean, we're kidding that I'm not a huge meat guy, but they're terrific. People should put them in their stockings, and they'd be a great stocking.
What do you mean you're not a huge meat guy? When did this happen?
I'm not a huge cold cut meat guy.
Oh, okay, cold
but
cut.
if you're going to get some, they're the ones to get. They've got some good stuff.
Yeah, cured meats. I understand. I know exactly what you're talking. I don't go out and buy beef jerky if it wasn't for Iowa Smoke. I just don't do it.
Right. Yeah. That's what I meant.
Then you got to watch those stupid those stupid Sasquatch commercials with the Jack Link's beef. I think your network runs those commercials, Jess. They're the most stupid commercials I've ever seen in my life. And anyways, Iowa Smokehouse ought to be a part of the BTN broadcast, but we'll keep them here. But anyways, Circle Herc says, Jess, you deserve to call any game you want. You're great. If you have an off night, please come back on this show as much as possible.
That's Jess's dad.
Uh,
I appreciate that. I mean, it's always fun to be on and fun to call Iowa games. It was fun. It was good. It's
Brings
good to
back
see
good
them.
memories, doesn't it?
It does. It really does.
Bill says, hate to disagree with Jess, but the Iowa offense is struggling because they can't shoot threes. It's a complete change from almost every other Fran team, and it will be really hard to adjust. But, I mean, you never said kind of what you said, Jess. They've got guys who can shoot threes. Josh Dix can shoot threes. Peyton has the potential to be maybe as deadly as anybody in this conference. Price, even though he's a freshman, has the potential to be that. Brock Harding could hit from anywhere in high school. I know it's a different game. But they got guys who can shoot threes.
Yeah, and it's just, this summer they go on the European trip, and obviously the competition's not great, but during practices, games, they're shooting it really well. Wichita State scrimmage, so they're just, as a coach McCaffrey's telling me, we let our guys play with freedom, and we want them if they're open to take those shots, but it's a team that is going to have to rely on that heavily, and it's just not collectively. It's we haven't seen two guys hit 6 or 7 threes each in a game. When you do that, you're going to win. I think it's coming, but they're going to need that to happen soon.
Anything to add to that, Gary?
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree there. But there are a lot of teams like that it's kind of the nature of the game now. It's the big man has kind of disappeared with a couple of exceptions. So a lot of people are shooting threes, and when they drop, it looks good. So
how about this, Coach? How about Luka Garza is way too good for the G League. He averaged 38 points per game, over the last 2 or 3 games, and he can't get a full-time gig in the NBA. That's how out of whack it is. I mean, in my opinion, I love the Shaq Olajuwon eras where you did both, right? There was some inside out.
Yeah,
Luka's
he actually
trying to
played
be
tonight.
Torment.
I saw Luka play tonight. I have to admit, I flipped a little bit.
Yeah.
And he's on the Timberwolves, and they played the 76ers, and he got in the game.
Yeah.
Played a few minutes there at the end.
He belongs, I mean, but it's just so weird that a guy like him's not in the league.
Well, they don't. There's nobody in that league posts up rarely, other than maybe off the ball screen. It's like 5 out and dribble handoffs, and yeah, it's a different game.
Can Zach Edey play in the league, Jess?
Whoa. You know what? He would have been the number 1 pick in the draft 15 years ago, right?
As with Luka Garza, right? He would have been.
I mean, he would have been. Can he? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. What do you think, Coach? I mean, it's not guaranteed.
I think if you asked the top agents in the country, I think they all say no.
Yeah.
The way the game's being played now, I think they would probably say no in terms of covering out there and spreading the court. But boy, I tell you what, somebody will take them for sure.
Yeah,
see if they can catch lightning in a bottle. But no, it's crazy how the game's changed.
He does shoot free throws really well, and it's funny you're talking about Luka Garza. Luka stretches the floor. It's not like Zach Edey. He can actually shoot threes, but you've got to be able to
move,
defend, and
way out in the perimeter. You got to be able to move.
Yeah, like Kofi Coburn, didn't even get a look. He's in Japan, I think. He was a pretty powerful player. Now, everybody kind of oversold that he's like Shaq and all that. He never was that, but still a very powerful, tough kid. And he can't even get a look. I mean, they're not even considering. So, yeah, it's going to be hard for and for good luck. The blessing for Purdue is that he's back for that reason.
I think that's one of the exactly. I think that's one of the reasons why he stayed. He's probably making pretty good money and try to develop his game a little bit more and see if he can give him a better chance of making it. Because if you don't make it right away, your chances of making it aren't great. You're just kind of gone. Now he could probably make pretty good money in Europe, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
there'll be some places he can play, but the NBA is that's up in the air.
Corey, we did address this earlier. I think talked about potentially Brock starting. We've got our last caller of the night. James is going to have to be kind of quick because we've hit our hour. James, welcome to our Iowa postgame show.
Just wanted to say it was a good game. At least we got the win, and obviously there wasn't pretty points to it. And early, I felt like Fran saying that like about defense is like how many people have to see it to believe it. You know what I mean? Because it's like his defense has kind of been non-existent sometimes in games where it should be existent. If that makes sense. Like just because he said it doesn't mean it's going to change.
Yeah, that's fair. They need more than words at this point.
I mean, I hope it does, but like, I need to see it to believe it just to be safe. Because you don't know, he could just be saying that.
Well, I have a feeling, Jess, you stood 2 feet from him when he was talking. He was upset. There was clear. He was upset. He diverted to the defense. He didn't want to talk about whatever Jess wanted to talk about at that moment.
Yeah, it's like the earpiece wasn't working right, so we're going live. We usually tape those, so we're going live. Earpiece is not working, so I can't hear the play-by-play guy. So then I'm telling the guy, so Brand's starting to stew right there. And then by the time I get to him, he's just wanting to get the heck out of there and go chew his team out. So it's, he wasn't happy with it. But, at some point, college sports are weird, right? We want to blame the coaches, right? Because we can fire the coaches, but we can't fire the players. But as a player, it's on you, right? I don't ever remember walking off the court thinking, oh, I wish Gary and Coach Davis would have put a better game plan together. I don't ever remember one time in my life thinking that. I remember thinking, Juwan Howard just beat the tar out of me, and I better toughen up, or it's going to be a long season. So it's I mean, the coaching is huge, obviously, but the guys have to.
I think what disappointed him probably was that he maybe saw some progress, in that middle part of the game, and then it just went right back to the same old stuff again. And if that happens, they got no chance. So I think that probably frustrated him. He thought, hey, we're on the right track here, and then all of a sudden we revert back to our old bad habits. And then you win so big, it doesn't hit home like a loss does. And that's I'm sure he got his point across.
For sure, and I'm happy to see Brock play as well as he did because I feel like he was due. Obviously, he's played well, but like 10 points wise was something that obviously is surprising to put the ball in the hole and just what he does for the team at that respect. But for me, I'm one of the people where it's like, I get he had a great game, but no offense to UMBC, but it's also UMBC. That makes sense. Where it's like you don't know if you can translate this to like a Big Ten team because it's gonna be way more physical.
I think they're 350th in Ken Palm ratings. And
I'm not trying to be disrespectful to them, but I'm just saying, like.
Oh yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. You're taking it right to the heart.
Okay, maybe I am, but
I'm gonna tell Coach Ferry you said that. No,
James,
you're right, man.
James, I appreciate your call, sir.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks, James.
Good job. Thanks, James. Good job, man.
Real quick, I just want to say I had the same thing written down as James. I said in my notes, great performance by Harding. He's shown this before, but when is he going to show it against good competition? Because he's struggled a bit, and he's undersized, right? I think he's quicker, probably laterally quicker than Jordan Bohannon ever was. He's not the three-point shooter that Jordan was, at least not to this point. He's got excellent vision, right? He can break a guy down. I think he's got to work at finishing around the rim a little bit better, finishing stronger. See? Now I'm giving I got a coach and a player here on the screen, and I'm giving my analysis. Coach, am I right on those things?
No, I think you're exactly right. I think you got to remember he's a freshman. So some players are better coming off the bench. They get a chance to watch it a little bit, see what's going on, get the nerves out, and come out rather than starting. And I think the last thing they want to do is, have him digress, and maybe putting pressure on him to start would do exactly that. So if it comes to the point where it's just so obvious when he puts back-to-back games, then that's a different deal. But I think for right now, he'll probably play a lot of minutes but come off the bench.
These are Architect Red's player of the game. Good, Jess.
You don't. It's crazy when you come to this level. You're used to playing basketball the way you want to play basketball, and when you play AAU high school, even if you have a great coach, the fact of the matter is, if you're a star player, you're being recruited at this level. You're a 30-point a night type of guy like he is, and you're going to have a lot of easy baskets, and you're going to have a lot of easy runouts. And you get to this level, and it takes about 3 practices to realize I may never get an easy basket again for the rest of my life. Like, it's over. There's no one who's ever they're not going to dribble off their leg and you're going to go down twice and dunk in front of the high school team. You're never going to get an open look. It's hardly ever going to happen. So you can't go for steals. you can't do reckless things and play the way you're used to playing your whole life. It's if you go for a steal, it becomes a 5-on-4. That play can cost you the game. If you go circus shot in there, fall on the ground, cry to the official, it's off to the other end. So you almost, for all of us who come to this level, you almost have to reimagine the game completely of how you're supposed to play. And some guys can't handle it. It's very frustrating. So that's why a lot of guys transfer. That's why a lot of guys can't handle it. So it'll just be interesting for him to see him adjust to, you can't turn the ball over, you can't go for steals, you have to hit your open shots. And it's going to be exciting to see if he can become a sophomore here in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
But he might not. It might take him a year. Owen Freeman as well, like Coach said, it might take him a year. Brian Bowens, J.R. Koch's, everybody's at a different maturity level, and by the end they're going to be great. But it's not the same game as Moline High School or whatever.
Yeah.
Gary, does his shot seem a little bit off balance?
Rocks.
Yeah.
I probably have to get a little better look on it. But like Jess says, you're so used to playing at a different speed. All of a sudden, you got to get the thing off quicker, and that can change a lot. So it's instead of having some 5'10" kid coming out, and you got somebody that's 6'7" with long arms, it's a different game, and it'll be the case with him now. I mean, it's Maryland, Baltimore County now. When he goes against there's some good guards in the Big Ten. We said there might not be a whole lot of big guys. There are some good guards, athletic, strong guards that'll. He has games like that. He's going to get some tough guards that are going to be put on to stop him, and then that's where you got to take the next step. So he did not face a whole lot of pressure tonight, but he made some great reads and made some great plays against a pretty poor team.
I've made the comment before that I was a little bit surprised we haven't seen more of Evan Braun's just for his rebounding and defensive presence inside. You surprised by that, Jess?
I talked to his mom in the hallway about this right before the game, and she's like so excited that he's on the team. And I think a game or two ago I mentioned that I think he's going to be a factor as the grind of the Big Ten schedule goes on. He's very strong. He's very physical. I think if he stays in shape and just keeps a positive attitude, I think he's going to get more minutes coming up because just the physicality of these certain teams. It's Tom Kickhart.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're a little late, Tom. You're a little late.
I know Corey
and
Gary
Close.
I was on with Corey earlier today.
You were?
Yeah.
What did you get paid for this? What did you get?
I got $250,000.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
Look, these guys.
Corey's got big bucks. He just doesn't pay you.
It's ridiculous. How did
Coach Close and I get a bunch of money from this.
Oh my word! What?
Yeah.
Took care of all my Christmas presents.
Took care of all his Christmas presents. He said. What's up, buddy?
Hey, just one thing. Brock Harding podcast knew this was coming.
Yeah.
We are the Brock Harding official podcast of Brock Harding.
You are?
Yes. He's endorsed us. Me and Randazzo. So just remember this.
I haven't been on their podcast.
Hey, are you plugging your podcast on my podcast?
Look, he said, are you plugging your podcast on my podcast?
Yes. No, just the Brock Harding version. Because it's the
good for you.
All right, Tommy Kickhart, known for his Joey Range stories on his podcast. We'll just leave it at that. He's got some Joey Range stories. I think Bronze is going to have his moment. I do. I'm a little surprised he's not playing more, but it's easy to talk about. I thought last year Carter Kingsbury, as random as is, I thought he come into the Wisconsin game last year, maybe late, and give him 7-8 good, tough, physical minutes. It'll be interesting to see if those guys get a few minutes. They need to stay ready. You just never know.
Never know. And people get hurt.
Yeah.
Usually not, but they do.
Well, it's been a pleasure, guys. Before we completely log off, want to give one final shout out to our sponsors, RTI Threads, Cooper DeJean Apparel, their Aaron Graves Apparel, Carson Shire, Aiden Hall, Zach Lutmer. A lot of those guys are going to be in the mix for playing time moving forward with Iowa football, and a lot of those guys have some big months ahead with bowl prep, with spring practice. Support those young athletes at rtithreads.com. Also want to thank Iowa Smokehouse. Gary talked about their cured meats. They've also got salsas, barbecue sauces, and all kinds of different game day snacking items. You can get free shipping by spending $50, and you'll get it right to your doorstep. IowaSmokehouse.com. Tasting is believing. It's an Iowa company. They're supporting their Iowa Hawkeye fans. They're supporting this show. So many reasons to support Iowa Smokehouse. IowaSmokehouse.com. Tasting is believing. Use the code Hawkeyes for 15% off your order. Gary, any parting shots or rips at Mr. Settles?
No, it's good to be in the presence of another legend. And
well, Gary, thank you very much. But what do you have to say
you're
about
welcome,
Jess?
Corey. Jess? I haven't gotten your Christmas card yet.
Hey, did I get yours?
Yeah, well, it's in the mail. I know that. Have you moved again? Are you at a different place?
No. I'm there. Hey, what'd you get Kelly for Christmas?
I'm not telling.
Come on, tell her.
She's watching the show. She watches the show.
She's not watching the show.
Yes, she is. She's watching the show.
For crying out. I will tell you what I got JoJo if you'll tell me what you got Kelly.
No, I'm not, because she's watching the show.
Stop. She's not watching the show.
I guarantee it. I guarantee she is. She's hanging on every word, especially when she found out you were on.
Oh, for crying out loud. Look, hey, I saw Nate Cook tonight in Bethany. Hadn't seen him in a while. Old walk-on star, right? So I got JoJo. I got her one of these Dyson cordless vacuums.
Wow.
Right? This is like, I talked to Mike Hodge, who built
For a Christmas present?
For Christmas. Mike Hodge swears this is the best vacuum ever. And he's like obsessed with this. So I text him. He told me, send me the link. I think it's a 12 volt. It's not cheap. But that's what I got her. That's my main gift.
Well, you do all the vacuuming, don't you?
Oh, stop. So I do
all the vacuuming.
Oh, stop. No, you don't.
So send me that Dyson. I may want to get one of those. Those sound good. I hate cords. Hey. Cords get all wrapped up and you run over them. I don't like them.
Oh, my word. Look, no, hey, Corey, he's been hiring the house cleaning for the last 20 years. Oh, he hadn't vacuumed.
Stop. Gary, with what I'm paying you, I would think at least you'd be able to have a maid throughout the week.
No, he does.
No maids.
Yeah. Okay. So,
by the way, on that Loyola team, there's a girl from our hometown plays on that team, a freshman, who's come to a few of my shooting clinics. I don't know if she'll play, but she's on the Loyola team.
You gonna watch a game tomorrow night, Gary?
I might, just because of that. I like watching them play. I do.
Yeah. What's?
I will be honest. That's the only women's basketball team I watch.
Here's what I'll say, just in reference to the. Again, I know totally different circumstances. Caitlin Clark effect. I get it. But for Tony earlier, who brought up, well, it's a midweek men's game. It's a bye game. You can't expect fans to be there. You watch tomorrow, Thursday at 5 p.m. 5 p.m. Central Time, Carver will be packed. On a Thursday at 5 p.m., you watch. Students are gone. It's the middle of the week. They're playing a nobody team, and Carver will be rocking tomorrow night.
I'll be curious to see. That's you probably are right.
So season's sold out, and my guess is people will show up. That's such an odd time. Jess, last question for you.
That's television.
Well, no, it's not. They play on BTN Plus. What does that got to do with television?
I bet you there's more than one game on BTN Plus.
Yeah, but you can have as many games as they want on BTN Plus at the same time. Jess, explain to me why a game like this would be. You work for BTN. Why would this game be scheduled at 5 p.m. if it's
maybe so everybody can get on the road and get out of there a little sooner, get home?
Yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea. I saw Caitlin and the girls play their last game in person because I called the men's game before that. That's the first time I'd ever seen her play in person, and it was incredibly entertaining. I was blown away. I mean, her strength and range. Good. I was blown away. It was impressive, and took my little girl with me, and it was special. She's once in a lifetime. I mean, it's way more than just a decade. She's once in a lifetime. It's we'll never see it again.
Yep. Well, folks, I'll be back tomorrow night recapping Iowa and Loyola, the women, approximately 7 p.m. The tip-off is at 5 p.m. Central Time.
Jess will be on tomorrow night if you need him.
All right. We'll see you back tomorrow night, Jess. And I won't put you on the spot to see if you're a BTN Plus subscriber. I'm sure you are. By the way, I enjoyed hearing you on BTN Plus earlier this season. Are you going to be on BTN Plus for the Northern Illinois game at the end of December?
I'm not.
You're not.
No, I'm
Who
not.
is?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
who is?
I don't know.
Find out and let us know, and I'll make a call.
No, I told him I couldn't do it. I can't do it again.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm,
Great. So,
Yeah.
okay. Well, that's a nice way to Debbie Downer way to end the show. But guys, I do appreciate both of you. Gary, as always, it's always a pleasure to be with you. And Jess, in all reality, you're always welcome here. Love talking to you, and great to see you, Carver. Whether Carver's a 10th full or sold out, it's still a pleasure to see you, and we'll look forward to it again in the future.
Yeah, we'll do it later in the year. Appreciate you guys. Love you, Coach Close. Merry Christmas to you, and appreciate all you've done for me in my life. I mean,
Make sure you put that card in the mail. I want to see your Christmas card.
Times are tough, Coach. Inflation's killing us.
Okay.
Postage is going up this year. Do you know that, Gary? They went up to like 60.
I know. 60. I went and bought a bunch of stamps just in case it did.
See you
All
guys.
right, folks.
Thanks a lot.
Have a good night, folks.
All right,
Thank
see
you.
you, Jess.